Hello, Marathoner families, and welcome to a new school year. And I hope that it's after having a long enough and relaxing enough summer. This is a video intended to make an introduction of myself, put a face behind the name, and to give you a little glimpse of how we're going to do things this year. So, first of all, I should make sure you know that I'm Mr. McGeehan. I'm your child's math teacher this year, the math teacher on the Marathoner team. It gives you a glimpse also of what you can expect to be the structure of things in terms of how I teach math, and that's by way of a flipped classroom or a flipped learning structure. Okay, and I'll talk more about that as I go through this introduction. But essentially, what it does is it pushes instruction home, and that becomes the homework by way of assigned videos supported by guided notes and further supported by some brief assessment of comprehension and understanding that I can use the data from. And then it reserves the class time for actually getting that practice in and hopefully having a chance to be more productive with that time and with that practice. So, as the adults in this equation, I suspect this is a learning model that none of us is familiar with. Okay, but it's what I think to be a much more efficient way of learning. What it does is it uh, resolves what I think is a traditional yet broken model when it comes to teaching. A model that forced us to oftentimes learn in isolation, and more importantly, to practice in isolation. Because you had to come to class, you had to be obedient, you had to be attentive, um, you had to, participate, and then you had to make sure that you absorbed all that knowledge and retained it long enough to be able to go home and to practice it in isolation by way of that traditional homework. And that's not always an effective model. So what a flipped learning structure is going to do is allow for me to do the equivalent of what I would otherwise be doing as a talking head teacher in the classroom and post it as a lesson on, not necessarily a daily, but on a very regular basis as an instructional video supported by guided notes, supported by some brief assessments, and it gives a student 24/7 access to that content on their time, on their schedule. So if they want to get it done during study hall, that's great. If they need to wait until after dinner time, that's great. If they need to pause in the middle, it's not the same as walking out of the classroom and missing 5 minutes of instruction time because you put pause, you come back, you hit play, you just keep on going. So this is 24 access to students, and they can go back to this video as often as they want. Because these videos, not only are they posted up on Classroom, Google Classroom for the year, but they're also posted up on my YouTube page. So this is a lifelong resource for students. So I hope they'll take full advantage of it. Um, as a parent or guardian, it provides you a little bit of a glimpse of what's going on in the class. So you don't necessarily have to rely upon your child being willing enough to share what's going on in class. You can actually see it, but I want to warn you that doesn't mean that you're going to have to become the tutor in this class, a tutor to your child. I just want you to know that if you ever want to get a sense of what the content is that's being taught at a particular time, this video, the particular video is going to do that for you. This is also going to promote differentiation in the classroom because, as I said, now the practice is being pushed into class. So it gives us more flexibility in terms of identifying what students' strengths and weaknesses are, and it gives me the ability to cater their practice accordingly. And it also promotes much more opportunity to a really important real-world skill, which is working in collaboration with others. They may work with a partner, they may work in a group, but there's going to be much more opportunity for collaboration, not always doing that practice in isolation. Okay, so that's really, really key to this whole process as well. So it gives 24/7 access to content while giving much more flexibility in the classroom to how we go about doing the practice. Um, this video was part of an assignment that was posted up on Classroom. That's why you're watching this. Your child knows that their responsibility for tonight is to go through the student contract, which is posted up as a Google form for them. And that essentially is a step-by-step expectations and guidelines for the class. And with each of those points, they're asked to check a box that they understand and acknowledge their responsibility for the expectations and guidelines. Okay. And your job is simply to watch the video. So With that, I hope that this is the last homework assignment that you have to get from me as a parent or guardian. Okay. Um, so a couple last things I also want to point out. If you see your child struggle, I think particularly in our community, it's very typical for us to want to hire a tutor or resource out by way of these additional math programs like Russian School of Math, RMS, Kumon Academy, etc. Um, in my experience as a teacher, I have to tell you, I'm not quite sure those resources are always productive in creating success in my classroom because they're just not aligned with the content that I'm teaching and the delivery of the content, how I'm teaching it. So, what I'd ask you to do, and the only thing I ask of you as a parent this year, is to encourage your students to take greater responsibility as lifelong learners this year, or as independent learners this year. And as necessary, encourage them to come to see me when they feel they need extra help. So on that note, the last thing I'll say, and they're fully aware of this, and this is posted in the student contract, I do have available office hours every morning without appointment necessary from 8 a.m. to 8:20 a.m. Unless something unforeseen pops up. So students are always available if they still have a lingering question to come and see me during that time and get clarification. Okay, so I hope this is all helpful information, and I look forward to working collectively as a team towards your child's success this year. And as always, if you have questions or concerns, email through my school email account is probably the best way to reach out. Again, I look forward to working with you this year.